All right, so here for hoc mortuo, note that you have an ablative absolute phrase, and the hoc here refers back to the unus, who's described as unus prae est, the one who's in charge of all of the druids. All right, so hoc mortuo, take that together, and then here you have a couple of alternatives. You have out and out, okay? Now, this particular phrase right here, the si qui ex reliquis excellit dignitate, this is a little bit compressed, all right? So look down here. This gives you a fuller form of Caesar's meaning or his expression. It's equivalent to si aliquis, if anyone, ex reliquis est, if there is anyone from the remainder, qui dignitate excellit. So that's one phrase, and then if there is anyone, he succedit, all right? Out, or si sunt plures pares, right? If there are plures, notice that this is contrasted to the notion of there being one who excels in dignity. And then you see that the result is that they contendunt. This is if there are plures, they contendunt, right? And sometimes that's by the suffragio druidum. Notice that this is that's a third declension genitive plural. And then non numquam, literally non numquam means not never, and this is often used for occasionally or sometimes, right? So sometimes even armis contendunt de principatu, right? The he here are the druids again. And then note that you have certo anni tempore. These two ablatives go together at a certo tempore anni, right? And then this in finibus carnutum part is going to go with considunt. They considunt in finibus carnutum, right? But then the quae regio here is going to give you more information about the finibus, all right? In the finibus quae regio, and then remember that habetur here in the passive can mean to be held or considered, right? Is held. What's not expressed is something like habetur esse, is held to be or considered to be. All right. Here for totius, note that that is a genitive singular. That's one of those 9 irregular adjectives. So that's a genitive singular modifying Gallii. Right. So, and then regio here is modified by media, the regio media, the middle region, right? Totius Gallii. Right. So in the finibus carnutum they considunt in loco consecrato. Notice that you have two ablatives of place where in finibus is more general, and then more specifically they considunt in loco consecrato. Note that it has to be a locus consecratus because they are a priestly class, right? So then huc, remember this is one of those spatial adverbs to here, right? Omnes, and then undique means literally from all over. It's another spatial adverb, but it's used in effect as an adjective modifying omnes, right? So omnes qui controversias habent conveniunt, right? And note conveniunt here goes with huc. They conveniunt huc, right? And then eorumque decretis judiciisque parent. Note that parent here goes with the dative. In Latin, you don't obey something as a direct object, but you obey to. Think of listening to in English, right? You listen to someone, right? So the parent decretis judiciisque eorum. The eorum here is, of course, again, the druids, right? Here, disciplina, you can take this as discipline, but think of it more in the sense that we think of a discipline in English as a study or a branch of knowledge, right? Now, note here, existimatur is a passive from existimare, to think or to consider, and this is a passive construction with disciplina existimatur is thought to reperta and translata esse. Here with reperta, you'll note that esse is not expressed, but it is existimatur reperta esse in Britannia, atque inde, inde is one of those spatial adverbs again, from there, in Gallium, remember in with the accusative will express motion toward, translata esse. Note that translata is derived from transfero. That's your fourth principal part. Okay. et nunc, and now. Here, you don't have something like ei or ili. Ili qui volunt, who volunt, diligentius eam rem cognoscere, to cognoscere eam rem diligentius. Think of it in that order. Right, so volunt cognoscere eam rem diligentius. Here, remember, cognoscere can mean to recognize, but also to get to know. All right. Plerumque illo. Here, illo is used almost as a spatial adverb, even though it is effectively derived from a pronoun. So illo, to there, de proficiscuntur. Note that that's a deponent verb. They go or set out. Discendi causa. All right. Note that causa here is an ablative, and remember that the ablative causa with a genitive will mean for the sake of. Now, I want to note about that is a gerund right there, discendi. If you guys remember, gerunds are verbal nouns, and you'll only find these with neuter second declension endings, and you won't have a nominative. Effectively, the infinitive is the nominative form of the gerund, right? So discere means to learn. That's your nominative form. So there aren't any special forms of the gerund for the nominative, all right? Remember, the way you form the gerund is take your second principal part, your infinitive, you drop off the re, you add this nd here, right? And then you'll just add the appropriate case endings. So discendi is going to be of learning. Discendo, to or for learning. Discendum is going to be learning as either the direct object or the object of the preposition ad to express purpose. And then discendo will be by, from, with, etc. Learning. All right. So note a couple sample sentences. Ille erat, he was, cupidus, desirous, discendi, of learning. Ille se discendo dedit, he gave himself discendo, to learning. He libri, these books, ad discendum scriptiscunt, are written or were written for the purpose of learning. Note that ad with a gerund will express purpose. And then ille, he, multum discendo profecit, he did much by learning, discendo, by learning. All right. And then as a final note, since the Druids were mentioned as having settled in the territory of the Carnutes, I figured I'd show you a map of Gaul. Note that Caesar had indeed said that the Carnutes region, the region that the Carnutes occupied, was considered the middle of Gaul. You'll note here that it's not quite so central, but it's fairly close. Right? This is the spot to which all the Druids went for their meetings, right? For the collection of the Druids all over Gaul. Right? So to give you some context, Rome's going to be down here. Remember that when Caesar takes his governorship, the Romans only have a firm foothold here in the northern portion of Italy. But as time goes by and Caesar is successful in his conquests, he subdues most of this area. He even makes at one point an incursion into Britain, and at another point an incursion across the Rhine into Germany to terrify the Germans. All right, but just to give you a general sense of where the region of the Carnutes is, it's right here.